This week, I'm going to lead you through a rest and reset practice. This is a slow yin-style practice focusing on relaxing and resetting the spine and shoulders after a day at work. Let's get started. For this week's practice, a bolster or a similar prop would be very helpful. Also, if you know that you have sensitive knees, some kind of knee pads or a towel that you can put under the knees might be helpful because we are going to spend some time on the knees as well. Other than that, we don't need props. We don't need a special space, just your mat and yourself. And we're going to start with a supported back bend. So in the first pose already, a bolster or maybe a cushion, a rolled up blanket, something you can place under your back would be very, very helpful. So when you have your props, when you have your space ready, lean your back onto your bolster. See where it's comfortable so you're not hurting in your back. You could leave a bigger space between your pelvis and the end of the bolster. And let your head rest onto that bolster as well. You could have your legs bent if that feels good. You might choose to extend your legs. Even a butterfly shape, so bringing soles of the feet together and turning knees out to the sides, could be a nice shape for the legs here. Any pose, any shape where you feel you could let your hips relax and the pose isn't too intense on your lower back. Today we're going to spend a couple of minutes in each pose. So if you're thinking of a yin-style practice, that's not very long. But if you're thinking of a more dynamic practice, then 2 minutes might feel like a longer time. But we're just looking to rest and reset our spine, our shoulders in each pose, finding a comfortable edge. And now if you found a good place for your legs, for your back, then see where you want to have your arms. You could open your arms further out to the sides. You could leave them lower down, closer to your body. Or you might even slide them overhead if that feels good right now. And then once you have found your shape in this back bend, bring your full awareness to your breaths. You might close your eyes if you want. Count the length of your in-breaths and count the length of your out-breaths. And see if you could lengthen your exhalations so that your exhalations would be just a bit longer than your inhalations. These longer exhalations help our nervous system to calm down. They can help our heartbeats to slow down. And this can help our whole body to relax and feel at ease. So we're sending a message to our body through our breath that it's okay to calm down. It's okay to start slowing down. With each breath, we're pressing that reset button. Just slowly letting our body, our breath, our mind to rebound from the day at work. And now we could spend another few breaths in this back bend. You could let those breaths slide down, all the way down towards the belly. Soften tension with each breath out. And then if you have your arms out on the sides or maybe over the head, just slowly slide your arms down next to your sides, close to the body. And then bend your knees if you had your legs extended, or close your hips from a butterfly pose. Now take a slightly bigger breath in. And as you breathe out, bring your chin to your chest. Start to reach hands to your thighs, to your knees. And then slowly, with the help of your hands and arms, roll your back up into a seat and hug your knees. You can keep rounding your neck and bring head down towards the knees. Send a breath or two towards your upper back between the shoulder blades. And then we're going to turn towards the bolster onto all fours. And at this point, if you know that you have sensitive knees, you could bring some cushioning under the knees for the next pose or two. We are going to stay on the knees, so there's going to be some weight, some pressure on the knees. And now turn your bolster sideways, or in other ways, adjust that pillow, that cushion, so that you could have it under both elbows. So you're kind of on all fours, but you're on your knees and elbows. And then we'll do a few circles here. Just moving the weight from elbows to knees, knees to elbows. And at the same time, we are moving the spine. This is the disco cat. We are rounding and arching the spine, a bit like in cat-cows. But we're also going through the side, so there's some side bending going on as well. You can allow your neck, your head to move. And then from an easy place, change the direction. You might have your toes tucked under, or you might relax your feet completely. See what feels good in your knees, in your hips. Do a couple more gentle cat-cow dancing disco cat movements. It doesn't need to be a big movement, just what feels good. Give some gentle movement for the shoulders, for the spine. And then we'll let those movements calm down. And we're going to go into the melting heart pose. You could leave your hips roughly on top of the knees, or you could lean your pelvis further back. You might need to move your bolster just a bit further forward if you want to keep it under your elbows. Now we're going to start turning or opening our chest down towards the mat. And you could keep your bolster under your elbows, maybe bring the opposite hand to the elbow, and then you could maybe also lean your head onto the bolster. So you're kind of gently letting your chest melt down towards the mat. The bolster will keep your upper body a bit higher up, so that might give you kind of a slightly deeper back bend. Your other option would be to push the bolster aside, bring your elbows down on the mat, maybe lean your head onto the mat. If you want, you might extend your arms towards the top of the mat as well. For some people, that is more intense in the shoulders, so if it feels that it's too much, then just keep your elbows bent. But really trying to get into the shoulder area, trying to get to that upper spine, that opening in the chest. You can still play with leaning pelvis further back or leaning pelvis further forward. Make sure there's no pain in your neck. There's not too much pressure in the neck or in the shoulders. And we'll take another 5 to 10 breaths here. At any point, if you want to come out of this pose, you could lean into a child's pose. So you could bring your pelvis to your feet and round the back. Let's take a couple more breaths in and out, wherever you are in your pose. Our next pose is going to be the Sphinx pose, like a cobra pose, but I'm suggesting we use the bolster as a support. So now either from your melting heart or from your child's pose, slowly start to lift your chest up. And we're going to lean towards the bolster, opening the front of the pelvis, belly towards the mat. You might need to move your knee supports away if you had something there under the knees. And now we could use the bolster here under the elbows. So you might leave that elevation under your arms. Again, toes could be tucked under, or you can release your feet. So we stay in a back bend. It's our third back bend, but now we're going a bit more to the lower spine, maybe, than we did in that melting heart. If it feels too intense to lean elbows on the bolster, you could also bring the bolster under your chest and then lean your elbows, arms to the other side, kind of over the bolster. And that often makes the pose just a bit more gentle. See if you want to keep your head up, looking forward. Or you might lean your head to your hands. Could be your chin, could be your forehead. Legs could be wider apart. Might even gently rock the pelvis from side to side and see where your legs want to settle. Are they closer together? Are they wider apart? Try to keep the tops of the shoulders soft. And keep breathing. Notice where you're sliding your breaths. How would it feel to breathe down towards the ribs? Down towards the chest in this pose. Maybe breathing all the way down towards the belly if you feel that there's some space for your breaths. We'll take a few more breaths in and out here. And then after those few breaths, if you have the bolster under your elbows, just slowly slide the bolster under your chest. Bring your elbows on the mat on the other side of the bolster. And then we're going to round the upper back, leaning over the bolster. And you could lean your head all the way down onto the mat, or you could bring hands under the head. So now looking for the opposite curve for the upper spine, allowing your neck, your head to lean down and forward. You can still adjust where the bolster is. Is it higher up? Is it lower down? And send your breaths down and up along the spine. Let yourself feel your breaths like waves going along the back, maybe all the way down towards the hips. You can let your pelvis become heavy. You can let your head become heavy. And we'll take another few breaths here, in and out. Just
gentle, keeping your feet, keeping your legs soft. And then after those few breaths, we're going to slowly slide hands under the shoulders and lift ourselves onto all fours, onto hands and knees. And then you could walk your knees to your right side so you can sit down onto your left hip. And for the next pose as well, you have an option to use a bolster. Again, it could be lengthwise in front of you, it could be sideways, or you might move the whole bolster aside as we go into a closed twist. So now legs on top of each other, or you can slide them apart. Slowly twist towards the mat. So you're turning your chest towards the mat or the bolster. And then as you exhale, lean down onto that support or all the way down onto the mat. And try to take pressure, take weight off your arms. You might keep your arms higher up. You might also bring your arms lower down, maybe next to your sides. Maybe one arm is higher up, the other one is lower down. If there's any pain in your lower back or kind of pinching in the lower back, just adjust the legs. Let them find a place where there's not too much twisting in the lower back. And then just breathe here. With each out breath, let go of tension that you don't need. You might feel that tension in your body. You might also notice that tension in your thoughts. Or notice that your breathing is tense. So with each out breath, let yourself let go of that tension. You don't need it right now. Not for this practice. And we could spend another few breaths for this twist. And then either after those few breaths or when you feel you'd be ready to slowly release this twist and move on to the other side, just in an easy way, find some weight onto your hands, onto your arms, so you could help your chest, your belly up off the bolster or off the mat. We're gonna come back onto hands and knees. And we'll just do a couple of cat-cows here. So a few times round and arch the spine. Allowing your head to move, allowing your pelvis to tilt. Breathing in and out. Notice when you breathe in, notice when you breathe out, and just let yourself follow that natural pattern. Couple more rounds. Allow head to follow those movements all the way from bringing chin to the chest to maybe looking forward. One last round in your own pace with your spine, your shoulders, your breath. And then we'll come back to center and prepare for that closed twist on the other side. So now we're going to come sit down on the right hip. So your knees are on your left hand side.
And again, you choose. Do you want to use a bolster, pillow, cushion? Maybe you want to lean all the way down on the mat. And just gently, gently twist, turning your chest towards the mat, towards the bolster. And then lean down. And again, head might turn to one side or the other. This side might be completely different. So let yourself adjust your arms, adjust your legs, and bring your awareness back to your breath. Just notice if you need to adjust anything, especially if you start to feel tense. Then let yourself make some changes in the pose so you feel you don't need to hold the pose, but you could just let yourself sink into the pose, into the shape. And we'll take another few breaths here, in and out. Maybe those few breaths are a bit deeper, a bit bigger. You could exhale through the mouth. Just let out a sigh. Soft and effort there might be left. And then after those few breaths, again start to find your hands on the mat. And just slowly bring your chest, bring your back up. And then we're going to find Shavasana pose. Find our final resting pose. If you want, you might use a bolster under your legs. You might also just bring yourself flat on the mat. You don't have to use any props here. Or maybe you don't want to rest lying down. You could find any other pose, any other shape that lets you rest, that lets you bring your attention to your breath once more. That lets you find that internal rhythm, that internal flow of your breaths. Allowing you to rest your mind, your thoughts in observing your breath. And if you want, you can come back to counting your breaths. Counting your in-breaths and your out-breaths. Allowing your exhalations to lengthen, to become just slightly longer than your in-breaths. And let yourself stay with this rhythm. Stay with observing the breath.
Give yourself a few more breaths in your resting pose. Or if you feel that you want to extend your Shavasana pose to be longer today, you are more than welcome to do that. If after those few breaths you feel that you would like to start closing the practice and take one slightly bigger, deeper breath in and out, and start to bring gentle movement to your fingers, to your toes, your hands, your feet, your wrists, your ankles. Maybe rock your head from side to side. And you could slowly open your eyes if you had your eyes closed. Just gently bring yourself back to that space. If you want, you can even slide arms overhead. Gently lengthen your body long. And then, in your own time, when you feel ready, roll onto one side and bring yourself up into a seat. This is your own final seat. Let yourself keep your body soft. And if it's a part of your practice, you can bring your palms together in front of the chest. As always, at the end of the practice, most importantly, thank yourself for taking some time to rest, to reset, to slow down today. And I thank you all very much for joining in, for sharing the practice. Namaste. Thank you.